What is something that old people love that you don't understand? In my country, Brazil, old people sit in front of their houses and do absolutely nothing for hours, just watching people and cars go by. This is more common for lower social class. For instance, my grandma and her friends gather every day at someone's door and just sit there until the night comes. They are retired. I live in a very rural part of America, and old people do the same thing here. Old men will sit in front of their houses drinking beer and waving at cars that go by. It seems really nice actually. Guess there comes a point where you're content to just sit back and let the world come to you. There is this weird type of traditional Vietnamese music my parents said that only old people like and they could not stand it either. A decade later and apparently they enjoy it. I await my turn in fear. This is going to draw some hate, but once I reached my 50s, Bruce Springsteen's library suddenly became enjoyable. I'd always liked bits of his work here and there, but once I got old enough, bam, I get it. Oldie here. I worked for a Canadian clothing store called Marks. I used to point our new arrivals to my daughter to see if she liked them, and she would say, "Ugh, those are old people clothes." One day she came in, looked around and said, "You guys are starting to get some pretty good stuff." I laughed because nothing had really changed, and watched the expression on her face change as it slowly dawned on her. This reminds me of something a friend did several years ago. We went to the local courthouse to visit a friend of mine, and as we were leaving, my friend peeked into the courtroom window to see if there was anyone in there that she knew. There was a guy who went to school with us who was just a year older in there. My friend said, "Holy crap, so-and-so is in there. Have you seen him lately? My God, he looks about 50 years old." We were 45 at the time. I just waited and said nothing. And about a minute later, we stepped into the elevator and she said, "Well, oh no. Oh God." I laughed until I cried. I'm a window cleaner and have a lot of elderly customers. Over the years I've found they love to be the first one to tell me one of the neighbors has died. To the point where if I say, "Yeah, Thelma already let me know," they look genuinely disappointed and annoyed that they weren't the one to break the news to me. They just seem to like gossip in general. Death will certainly qualify. Watching the news constantly. My wife's grandmother was in long-term memory care for several years before her death. Towards the end, she didn't know what day it was, or if it was morning or evening, but she watched CNN 24 hours a day, and would lose her shit if somebody changed the channel, because she wanted to know what was going on. Same with my grandmother and local news. If someone changes the channel, "Hey, I'm watching that," even if she's busy scrolling through her phone or reading the paper. She says it's because she doesn't want to miss if something happens. Telling anyone who will listen about their various ailments. Look, I'm 57, so I'm ancient by Reddit standards. But I vowed early on that I will not become one of these oversharing old people. I'm in my 70s. When new aches or pains pop up every month or two, you're not going to immediately run to a doctor every single time. So you'll want to share this information to gauge how serious it is, find out how other people have dealt with that ache or pain, and share your own discoveries with others. Seriously, check back with me in 30 years and let me know if you've actually avoided doing this. Fine china and silverware. It's pretty in the way anything made in bulk can be. It's expensive, has very little resale value, fragile as fuck, and virtually useless unless you're trying to impress another old person. Personal opinion, no hate. I use my grandmother's fine china as everyday plates. Even put them in the dishwasher. Freaks my mother out, but they are plates. They are serving their purpose in life. Why would I have extra plates I don't use except for holidays? I feel like it probably is a sentiment carried over from when fancy things were very expensive, so people took good care of them. For example, my grandparents were poor and lived in a rural village, and they would rent plates for holidays because they had none, so I sorta get it, but I also get your stance too. I've reached the tipping point. I love my hedge and some drunk kid fell in it. Big hole. Will take 4 years to grow back. This get off my lawn moment awakened the old in me. Please just put a big round door there and live as a hobbit. Sitting hours behind those slot machines. All the casino ads make it look like you'll be gambling in Monaco with a bouncy, joyful group of young people, then you go in, and it's endless rows of blank-faced olds jamming on those buttons. Working way over your scheduled hours for no pay. to show that you are a good, hard-working person. I always think of the person who said, 20 years later, the only people who will remember you working all those extra hours are your children. Asking people when they're getting married and having kids. I'm 27 and it's incessant from my grandparents and mother. By the way, when are you gonna settle down? It doesn't stop either. When are you going to have kids? Has a kid, are you going to stop at one? They love to refuse to learn new things, insisting that they just can't. I loved my grandpa for that. Man never backed down. He dropped out of high school in the 1940s and that was the extent of his education. But god damn it, when email became popular his retired ass bought a computer and taught himself how to do it. He would browse the internet news as he called it. He stayed up as best he could with emerging tech. He even had a smartphone. The only person in his retirement community to have one. Obsessed with the weather. My partner's grandmother house sat while we were away for a trip and made sure to record the weather details for us of every day we were gone. Walking around naked in the gym locker room. In a way, I admire their lack of self-consciousness. I'm 73. Yes, I know what Reddit is. I love retirement. Playing tennis with friends, then complaining about shit over coffee and a donut. Tinkering with stuff until I break it, then calling a qualified technician. Gives my wife something to bitch about. Playing WoW when you snot-nosed kids are in school so I don't get killed trying to complete a quest. Skiing midweek at senior rates when the slopes are empty. That's just for starters. Old lady perms. Those types are about to die out, but I still see little blue-haired ladies out and about. I don't get it. They only wash their hair once a week, and it just doesn't look good. A truly fascinating thing I recently learned: a blue or purple rinse is something you can do if blonde hair is brassy or yellowish. Anyone who bleaches their hair has probably used a purple shampoo once or twice, to cancel out the yellow. Here's the tricky bit though: as we age, our color perception changes and many older people develop a yellowish tint to their vision, and some people speculate that this means they always see their hair as brassy yellow, and therefore go much harder with the toners, see the blue tones as closer to white. Another reason, as your hair thins and thins, your pink scalp shows through. The blue is to counteract the pink and give you the illusion of a fuller head of hair. I'm in my mid-40s. I'll be the ghost of Christmas future to some of you. Ready? I had many of these same complaints in my teenage years. Things like music. Life gets weird when music you listened to in your youth ends up on the oldies station. Many of these things will happen to you, but you won't believe me for another 20 years minimum. I'm 43. I knew I was old when I turned to the oldies station expecting Buddy Holly or the Beach Boys, but instead got Rod Stewart and R.E.M. Yeah, when I was younger I wondered why my parents didn't stay current with their music choices, and why they listened to all of that disco and early pop. Turns out I do the same thing, using Spotify to stay in the songs from my youth. There is something about the nostalgia of where you were when you heard certain songs. Facebook adding your own name to a comment like, "Great photos, love Mom and John." I fucking know it's you, Maureen. It shows me you're when you comment. Touching strangers' babies. Why is that? My husband's grandma will lunge towards a baby like a hyena trying to steal from a lion. She then starts getting in the baby's face while dancing like an idiot and trying to smooch their puffy baby cheeks. She doesn't care what the parents' guardians say either, and will respond with, "It's okay, they're laughing." She weirds me out as an adult cause she has no view of personal space. I feel bad for those parents. Now that I'm old, I'd just like to travel to places to look at the scenery. 20-year-old me would not understand the point of that at all. Going 35 miles per hour on the highway. Just stay off the damn highway, Margaret. You're actually making everything worse for everyone, and clearly you're in no rush. Everyone who learned to drive before GPS still loves having in-depth conversations about alternative routes, even if they now use their phone's maps and can see all the different options and about how long each would take. Waking up early. Grandma, you are retired. Why would you not sleep in every day? They lose the ability to do so. Something about hormones, if I recall it correctly. I'm not even 40 and I can't sleep past 8. Yep. Mid-40s here and my body just wakes up around 6 a.m. no matter how late I go to bed. It sucks. I miss being able to sleep in. Soap operas. I get bored after 30 minutes. How does someone watch 500 episodes? My mom, who is in her 70s and retired, explained this one to me. She enjoys her daytime soaps because so little happens that she can have them on while she cleans around the house and doesn't feel like she misses anything. Some she's been watching so long that she says they've recycled the same plot half a dozen times over the past 20 years. Blaming the youth for the problems that their generation created. Being so nosy and concerned with how other people are living their lives when it has absolutely no effect on the quality of their own. What is something that old people love that you don't understand? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.